Hereditary. It's from the producers of The Witch, and if you have seen The Witch, then you should have an idea of what you're going in for. Now, I was a little concerned because I didn't care for The Witch at all. Yeah, it was shot well and it was acted well, but overall it seemed to be promoting a fairly evil and insidious agenda that I just can't subscribe to. Now for this movie, I didn't really know anything about it except for what the trailers showed me, and the trailers do show very little. Unfortunately, what the trailers do show is not dispersed throughout the movie. It really only takes place in the last 15 minutes. But like I said, I went into this movie not really knowing the story. Now, the demographic for this movie, I don't know what it is because my theater had about 3 70-year-olds in it, 2 middle-aged single women that went together. It looked like a man and another woman who were sitting off separate. So in total there was 8 people in this movie, and I was really confused to see these 7-year-olds. I don't know what about the trailer or what attracted them to coming to see this movie. But regardless, I was very intrigued to see what this horror movie could do because we have had such a slump of good horror movies. It looked like this one would be truly frightening and terrifying and hopefully give some great performances and a solid story. So let's talk about that. The performances are great. Everybody does a really fantastic job of portraying their emotions on screen. You do feel connected to them. You do feel like this is a real family. And as for the production of the movie, the cinematography is fantastic, the score is chilling, and the sound design is very noticeably well done. Now let's go ahead and talk about the story. The first act of this movie is intriguing. There are a number of unsettling images and references that are brought up, and it is some decent foreshadowing for the rest of the movie, and it did hook me. I was ready to see what I was in for. But then unfortunately, the second act takes a nosedive into Snoozeville. I found myself clock watching a lot and just really finding myself, I had lost all investment that the first act had built up because the second act doesn't do anything to further these relationships. The movie basically revolves around just one tragedy after another and how does this family deal with it. And what I can tell the producers and filmmakers are trying to do is they're trying to slow boil this tension in the movie through cinematography and through their sound design to give you this incredibly unsettled feeling, and you know it's leading to something bad. Something wrong is going to happen because this family is slowly kind of going insane and they're constantly at each other's throats, and there are situations in the past that are revealed that are truly terrifying, and you're wondering how is that going to pay off. So unfortunately, this movie is not scary at all. It's not terrifying. The trailer made it look terrifying and scary, and it wasn't that at all. Like I said, I mostly just found myself bored. There was some kind of creepy scariness in the first act, but really everything you see in the trailer is reserved for the last 15 minutes. And that's a problem. I find that happens a lot, it seems like, in horror movies where you're waiting and waiting, and then at the very end is when it all goes bug nuts and super crazy and scary. And honestly, that's what this movie did. And by the time we got into the third act, it was, I guess, terrifying, but honestly, this story isn't original. It very much takes a lot from Rosemary's Baby, and it also takes quite a bit, it seems like, from the storyline of Paranormal Activity 2, and maybe some from Paranormal Activity 3. It's mostly just kind of a blend of those stories, but where this movie really lost me, and ultimately I did have to walk out of the theater, was right at the very end where it just started promoting the occult and demon worship, and it just went to a really dark place that I have no desire to go to, nor do I think should be promoted in any way or endorsed at all. And I hope, like, regardless whether you're a Christian, hopefully you could recognize that this is wrong and it's going just too far when they're saying some very evil things and portraying some very satanic occult worship. And that's when I had to walk out of the movie. It was the very end. I believe there's only a minute left. but I was just not going to go into that or subscribe to it. So as a film reviewer, I have to have standards. I can't just wholeheartedly just go blind into movies and just be up for anything. And I wrote them out here in my own personal guidebook. These are my own convictions that I have, and this movie did cross those convictions where it just was going into a blasphemous, evil area, which is unfortunate because I think this movie did have a lot of potential in the first act, but ultimately Hereditary was incredibly disappointing because for the most part it's just really boring. It doesn't do a whole lot to invest me, and like I said, it does have an accurate portrayal of the occult, so hopefully if people do go see this, they will take that away, that the occult is not something to mess with at all, because it can have some very horrible, dire consequences. So you may be asking though, Corbin, wait a minute, aren't you being a hypocrite? Isn't Rosemary's Baby the same thing as what you're saying Hereditary does? Well, no, not exactly. Rosemary's Baby is a completely absurd plot about Rosemary having the baby of Satan. Okay, that does sound actually really hokey when you put it into those terms, and yeah, it's completely ridiculous and impossible. Also, Rosemary's Baby is an incredible psychological horror film that really plays with you and your expectations throughout the entire movie, and yeah, it does have a dark ending, but cinematically it has a higher quality, and theologically it's ridiculous. Now on to Hereditary. It's not a good psychological horror film. For the opening it is, but then for the rest of it, it's just incredibly boring. And it doesn't have the same aspects of Rosemary's Baby. And this is a very real portrayal of the occult, and then what its message is at the very end of denying the Trinity and worshiping this demon king of hell or whatever. That is too real, and it's going to a place that we should not really promote at all. We should have nothing to do with this. So yeah, don't go see Hereditary. These are not the kind of movies you need to support with your money. If I ever see from the producers of The Witch or Hereditary ever again, I'm not going to go see any more of their movies, because clearly I feel like after these two movies, they have this active agenda to promote the occult, to glamorize it and glorify it, and I don't want anything to do with that. And that's another thing, is I don't feel like Rosemary's Baby spends that much time glorifying or glamorizing the occult and Satanism, if it really does at all. Like I said, it's mostly just a psychological horror film playing with your expectations. And yes, even though it does end on a dark note similar to this movie, it doesn't go to the point of directly being blasphemous. As I've said time and again so far in this review, it's a place that I can't go. So yeah, even though the cinematography and sound design and score is very well done, and many aspects of this movie are well done, such as the performances and portrayals of everybody, I can't recommend this movie at all. I am going to give Hereditary 3 stars out of 10 with a strong not recommend. So unfortunately, this was not what I was thinking it was going to be. Hopefully I will be bringing you some more positive and great reviews here soon, but I did feel it was important to get this message out there that this movie is just, it's wrong. It's wrong. But anyways, thank you for watching this review. Make sure to share it so more people know about this movie, and I look forward to bringing you all more reviews very soon. I'll catch you next time.